Hello. What we're going to do now is I'm going to create a library of functions that work with large sets of numbers. This will be introductory, so I'll be keeping it simple. First of all, what are going to be our large set of numbers? We'll use integers. Here's an array of n integers, or let's say I don't know. I'll say I have these bunch of numbers, and I'd like to find out something about them. I want to work with this unknown set of numbers. I don't even know how many are there. So one way of getting around sitting down going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and typing in 7 is what I could do. And this is a very common method. Say const integer n equals, ask the compiler, what is the size of the array A? Its total size. When I say size, I mean the whole thing. Everything, every byte. And then I say divided by the size of, well, what is it filled with? It's filled with integers. So if I know the total size, and I have the size of one integer, I'll know how many integers are in the entire thing. You might ask, do I need to say constant? No, I don't. But because this is an array size, I don't want to accidentally change this in the code sometime. That would be bad. So one thing I'd like to do, I have this array, I want to be able to display it. So I'll say, show me the array. So I like to have a function where I give it the array and how many numbers are in it. And this function, which doesn't exist yet, that's why it's underlined in red, will display all these numbers. And I'll display it in groups of 3, columns of 3. So I'm going to go up here at the top. I could do it at the bottom. And, well, to make my life easy, I'll be using namespace std, so I don't have to type in std, although it is a bad habit. Now I'm going to write a function called show, and show needs to know, well, this, what am I giving it? I'm giving it an array of unknown size, integer, call it anything you like. We could call it, AR for array. And this means an array of unknown size. And I don't know the name of it yet. Well, down here I'm going to give it A, but right up here I don't know its name. So I'm just going to give it a dummy value AR. Next, I need to know its size. So I'll call it N. In fact, I like calling it capital N when it comes to array sizes. Next, I have to fill in the insides. What do I want this function to do? It's like a black box. Well, I'm going to say this function start with the index equal to 0 and go all the way up to the last number, n, one at a time. It's a for loop. And I'm going to say, look, I'm going to say, let's say, cout, print out everything you see, AR, A of I, and let's put one space in between. But after you print 1, 2, 3, I want to skip a line. So I'm going to have an extra piece of code here. I'm going to say, take a look at I, divided by 3. When you divide I by 3, I don't care what I is, there's only 3 possible answers. We could get the answer 0, no remainder, remainder of 1, or a remainder of 2. Now notice, if I get a remainder of 2, it means I must have had a 1 already and a 0. So I'm going to say the following. I'm going to say when the remainder equals 2, then I'm going to skip a line. And this is how I will skip a line, very simply. Semicolon. Like the line is things up. And here's my for loop. Now I want to know if this works. Notice it's not complaining here. Some compilers will complain if you don't put a return on the end. So I'm going to be formal and put a return, because main technically is a function and it returns an integer, and I'm going to return the number 0. Next, I'm going to tell my compiler to build this thing and run it. Seems I had a mistake. And let's see, what's my typo? Semicolon missing. Some of you probably caught that. Try it again. There's my 7 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and what are you going to do about that? I could just make my life look nicer and do something like this, just so it looks good. And I feel happier about my test program, because that looks so handsome now, doesn't it? Oh, beautiful, depending on your perspective. Now, this is a wonderful thing, this function, because I can create other arrays. What if I change this name to R, Romeo? This function doesn't really care what the name of the array is. Where's A? Oops. Romeo. Eventually, I don't know why it's not running. Try that again. Well, suddenly it ran. And there it is. Now somebody might say, I don't know what these numbers are. There's a lot of them. Can you tell me what the maximum number is? Sure. So I'll want something like this. Integer m equals, tell me the max value, give it a name, of Romeo. And there are n numbers in Romeo. So Romeo's got these numbers in it. I don't know how many there are. I'm going to call it n. Watch this. There. I don't know how many there are. So I'm going to create another function. Call it rmax. That's going to have an array given to it of a known size. So I'll say this time it's returning a value. Notice I want a number to come out. And put it in m, and it's going to be an integer. So I'm going to say integer max value Again, I could use any letter I want. I'll say arg, and I'll call it size n because I like using n. Now I don't know which one of these numbers is the largest, so I'm going to make a guess. I'm going to say the highest number equals number 0. And I could be wrong. I'm going to assume that. Then after I do the assumption, I'm going to say, okay, computer, don't complain, but I want you to start at item 1, because notice we said item 1 is already the highest. So I'm going to start at 1, and I'll say I, if you're less than n, I++, if what? If arg of I is greater than the number that I think is the highest. Notice, I think the first item 0 is the highest, but what if I was wrong? What if it was item 1 was the highest? Well, it doesn't bother me. I'm not going to complain. I'll simply say my highest equals A of I. It's very simple. When this loop completes, we will have the highest element here. And I don't want to throw that number out, so what I will do is I'll say return highest. I go down to my code here, the lower parts, and I say, all right, calculate the maximum value. I'm just going to compress this so we don't have to look at all of it. Here I'll say cout. The max value is m, And I'll skip a line at the end of that so it looks nice. Compile and run this code to test it. Oh, build and run actually. The max value, it tells me, is 8. What you should do after this is rewrite this code. Instead of max value, write one called min value. And we could even write one called replace a value. Hope you enjoyed that.